This lesson is an excellent introduction to understanding tenths as decimals. We are learning to understand the fractions can be represented as decimals. What I'm looking for? Well, hopefully we can all understand the place values of units and tenths, read, write and order tenths, and write tenths both as fractions and decimals. Fractions to decimals, tenths. What fraction of the chocolate bar has been eaten? Well, if we look at the chocolate bar, we can see there are 10 pieces, and of the 10, one is missing, meaning 1/10 of the chocolate bar has been eaten. And our second question, would you rather have 4/10 or 7/10 of a chocolate bar? Well, hopefully, if you're like me, you would prefer to have the 7/10, because obviously that would mean you would get more chocolate. What do you notice about 5/10 of a chocolate bar? 5/10, so we have 10 pieces originally, but there are only 5 of them left. So hopefully you have noticed that that is a half. So 5/10 is the exact same in size as 1/2. As a decimal, how much of this chocolate has been eaten? Well, let's have a look at the chocolate bar. There was originally 10 pieces altogether, and we can see that there are 2 pieces that have been eaten. So 2/10 have been eaten. And 2/10 as a decimal is 0.2. And we can look at units and tenths. There is 0 units because that would be a whole one, and we have 2/10. So 0.2. Colour 3/10 of the galaxy bar, where we can see that our number line is in decimals. So units, decimal, tenths. They want us to colour in 3/10. So we have 3 in our tenths column. And then we can simply colour in the chocolate bar up to 3/10. And that would be the 3/10, 0.3. Colour 6/10 of the galaxy bar. So again, we have units and we have tenths, and we have to colour in 6/10, so it's 0.6. So we colour along our number line up to 0.6 because that is 6/10. Colour 5/10 of the galaxy bar. So again, if we think of our place value headings, you've got tens, units, decimal point, tenths. We're asked to colour in 5/10. So 5 in my tenths and everything else is 0. So that's 0.5 is 5/10. So I go along my number line to 5/10, and there is the section I will colour in, which is exactly the same as 1/2. So 1/2 is 5/10, which is 0.5. So here we have our full galaxy bar, and we have to work out what fraction of the smaller bar is left. So you can quite clearly see that it is a half. So if we put it all into tenths, half of that is 5. So half of the Mars bar is 5/10, which is the same as 1/2. And again, with our place values, units and tenths, 5/10, 0 units, so a half is 0.5. Sort the information to the correct pizza. Well, let's begin with the pizza that has a blue section missing. Well, the pizza has been divided into 10 pieces, so it's in tenths, and there is one section coloured in, so 1/10, and 1/10 is 0.1. So there's 2 of the options removed already. Let's go to the brown pizza. Again, there are 10 pieces of pizza, and on this occasion 4 of them are coloured in, so 4/10, and 4/10 is 0.4. Let's go to our purple pizza next. Again, there were 10 pieces. Half of it is coloured in, so 5 of them are coloured in, So 5/10 are purple, which is 0.5. And we can rule out those two options. And we're left with 0.2 and 2/10. We go to the pizza with the black pieces. There were 10 pieces, 2 are missing because they're coloured in black, so 2/10, which is 0.2. Colour in 0.8 of the pizza. Okay, what is this as a fraction? Well, we have 10 pieces of pizza, and I have to colour in 8 of them because I'm colouring in 8/10. So I'm going to colour in 8 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 2 left over. 8/10 are coloured in, 0.8. Place the fractions in the correct place on the line. So our number line is going up in decimals, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, all the way up to 1/1, which will be 10/10. So I'm going to begin by sorting my 0.4. And that matches with my 4/10. 8/10 would be 0.8. 9/10 would be 0.9. And 2/10 would be 0.2. Here we have a few examples before we can attempt the questions. So 2/1 and 1/10 is 2.1. And let's look at why that is the case. That is my units, the 2, and my 1 is in the tenths column. So 2/1 and 1/10 is 2.1. Then we have 3/1, 3 and 4/10. So again, my units, my whole numbers, there's 3 of them, and I have 4/10, 3.4. And my last example, I've got 6 and 2/10. So 6 in my units because it's 6 whole numbers, and then my tenths is 2. So I've got 2 in the tenths column. Let's try and match up then the fractions to the decimals below. So 3 and 1/10, 3/1 and 1/10, 3.1. 7 and 9/10, 7/1 and 9, so it's 7.9. Then we have 2 and 6/10, which is 2.6. Our final one, hopefully it matches up, 4 and 5/10, 4.5. Yes, they do match up. As a fraction, what is in this tower? Well, I've got 1/1. And each of these are 1/10 because 10 of them would make up a whole one. So as a fraction, I have 1/1 and I've got 4/10. As a decimal, that would be 1/1.4. My units and my tenths, 1.4. My second then question, as a fraction, what is in this tower? So straight away we can see that we have 4/1. And remember, this occasion has to be as a fraction, and we have 3/10. Then as a decimal, that would read 4.3. Your units and your tenths. Here we have 2 further questions. In both of them, you have to write what is represented in the picture as a fraction and as a decimal. Work out your answers, then come back to check. Okay, the question on the left then. I have 2/1 and I have 1/10. And as a decimal, that would read 2.1. My whole ones are my units, and after my decimal it's a tenths, so it's 0.1. My second question, I have 3/1, and then my little squares are in tenths, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. So I have 8/10. And as a decimal number, 3.8. Turn these fractions into decimals. 3 whole ones and 6/10. Whole numbers and tenths after the decimal. My second question, 5.2. The third one, 2.1. And 9/10, well, I have no whole numbers, so it's a 0 and 9/10, 0.9. On this slide, we're going in reverse. This time, we're turning these decimals into fractions. So the first one, 7.8. 7 whole ones are in my units column, and then I've got 8/10 in the tenths column. The second question, 0.6. I've got 0 whole ones, but I have 6 in the tenths, so 6/10. Third question down, 2 whole ones and 3/10. And the last one, we've got 1 whole one and we have 9/10. 1 whole one in my units and 9 in my tenths. Okay, let's see if we can sort these fractions and decimals onto our number line. Right, let's begin with 0.4. 0.4 is just less than a half, so it will be around here, 0.4. 2 whole ones and 6/10, so it's just above 2.5, so 2 whole ones and 6/10. 0.7 will be down between 0 and 1 because there's no whole ones, 0.7. 3.2 is going to come between 3 and 4, 3.2. 1 and 5/10 is just 1.5, so 1 and 5/10. 5 and 1/10 is going to be just above 5, so 5 and 1/10. 1.4, just below 1.5, so 1.4. 4.9, just before the number 5. We haven't quite reached 5, so 4.9. 2.6, we have already got 2 and 6/10. It's the exact same, 2.6. And the last one that we have, sorry, 2 left, 3.5 is 3.5, 3.5. The final one, 2.1, just above 2, 2.1. What fraction of the shape is shaded? Well, we have 10 pieces and 3 are shaded. So 3/10 is shaded. What fraction of the shape is not shaded? Again, we have 10 pieces. And if you have a quick count, you can see 7 are not shaded. And what is this as a decimal? 7/10, units and tenths. 0 whole ones and 7/10. So it's a decimal. It's 0.7. What fraction is green and red? Okay, let's work out the red answer first. So again, we have 10 pieces and 3 are red. And the second question, 10 pieces and 7 are green. Next one, as a decimal, what is shaded blue? So we have 6 pieces are blue, 0.6, because there's 6 pieces blue and there were 10 altogether. And on the yellow, what is shaded yellow as a decimal? Again, there's 10 pieces and there are 4 yellow, so 4/10 is 0.4. Our number line ranges from 0 up to 2 whole ones. It's divided up into 10 pieces, so each of these are a tenth. So our very first letter A is at 0.3 or 3/10. B is at 0.8 or 8/10. C is at 1.1, which is 1 whole one and 1/10. And D is at 1.4, which is 1 whole one and 4/10. Can you work out the value of A, B, C and D on this number line? Come back to check your answer. Okay, like the previous question, our number line is moving up in tenths. So A stands for 4.2, which is 4 whole ones and 2 tenths. B is at 4.6, 4 whole ones and 6 tenths. C is at 5.4, 5 whole ones and 4 tenths. And D is at 5.9, which is 5 whole ones and 9 tenths. Okay, straightforward enough question. We have to match up the answer at the bottom to the right hand side of the arrow. So the decimal answer matched up with its fraction, or the words. The first one, 0.3. Well, that is just 3 tenths. So we can write in that it is 3 tenths. The second one, 0.9. Well, that's 9 tenths. Again, let's write it in, 9 tenths. Third number down, we have 0.5. You can see it there as a fraction, 5 tenths. Fourth one down is 0.4. Again, we have it as a fraction, 4 tenths. And our final one is 1.3, which is 1 whole one and 3 tenths. Put these decimals in order of biggest to smallest. 3.53, 3.3, 3.45, 3.9 and 3.3. Okay, so let's begin with the biggest value on the screen. A lot of people will instantly think that it is 3.45 because 45. But our biggest value is the 3.9. Because 3.9, if I make it a 2-digit number after the decimal, just means 3.90. So that's our biggest value. The smallest value on the screen would just be the number 3. Because everything else has a little bit more than 3. So the smallest value at the other end would be 3. Okay, let's go to the next biggest value from our options we have remaining. And we can score out 3.3 because we've got 2 of them. But the next biggest value is 3.5. And that's because 3.5 is just 3.50. So if we want to think of it like 50 after the decimal, our next biggest value is our 3.45. And the last one that we're going to put into this space is 3.3. Because 3.3 just means 3.30. I would like you to put these decimal numbers in order from biggest to smallest. You can pause your video and then come back to check. Okay, let's begin with our biggest value then. The biggest number on the screen is our 2.9. Again, if you want to think of it as having 2 numbers after the decimal, it just means 2.90. So that's the biggest value on the screen. The next biggest value is our 2.75. Third biggest number is 2.4. Again, if you want to imagine it, it just means 2.40. Our next biggest value then would be our 2.3. So again, if you want to imagine it as 2.30. Then we have our 2.1. And finally, our smallest value on the screen is 2.04. Continue these sequences. 4.1, 4.3, and then we have a blank, 4.7, another blank, 5.1, 5.3. So sometimes it helps if you see the number and you think of it without its decimal. So it's like 41, 43, I'm going to have 45, but obviously I have a decimal between. Then 4.7, so it's 4.9. So I've been moving up in odd numbers. I'm adding on 0.2 each time. My second question then. 2.45, 2.35, blank, 2.15, 2.05, 2.95. So if we look at the numbers after the decimals, we've got 45, 35, so we're going to have 25, that's 2.25, 15, 5, then we're down to 1.95, so it's going to be 1.85. And the final one, 1.29, 1.49, so we're going to have a 69, so it's 1.69, 1.89, 2.9, then our final one will be 2.29. What is the value of the number underlined? Well, I'm going to do the examples on the left side first. So the value of the first one, we have our tens, units, decimal point, tenths, hundredths. So that is 3 units. A second number, units coming before the decimal, then decimal, tenths and hundredths. Third number down, we've got tens, units, decimal point, tenths, hundredths. It's a 3 underlined, it's 3 tens, which is 30, but it's tens. And my fourth number down, hundreds, tens, units, decimal point, tenths. And my 6 is in my hundreds, which is 600. I would like you to answer the 4 questions on the right side of the screen. Once you've done so, come back to check your answer. Okay, the first one then. So we have our units before the decimal point, then tenths, then hundredths. Not something we've looked at too much, but it's the hundredths column. Next number down, we've got 5,789.1. So it's 5 in my thousands, then hundreds, tens, units, 0.1, which is in the tenths, but the underlined value is 9 units. Third number down, hundreds, tens, units, point tenths, that is 4 in my hundreds, 400, and the final number, tens, units, point tenths and hundredths, it's 7 in my tenths, 7 tenths. Which number is smallest? Let's begin with the top right hand corner, we'll call it A. So 2.3, 3.2 and 23. Well, we can rule out 23, it's way bigger than the other two, and the smallest number of the remaining two is 2.3. We'll look at B next, 65, 6.5 and 6 3/10. Again, 65 is way bigger than the other two. 6 3/10 is just 6.3, and that is smaller than 6.5. C, 1.55, 5/10 and 5.5. Well, 5/10 is just 0.5. So that is the smallest value, 5/10. And the last question, 2.12, 1.22 and 2/10. 2 and 2/10. So 2 and 2/10 is 2.2. And then we can compare all of our decimals and we can see that 1.22 is the smallest. This time we have to use the symbols greater than or less than. So the first question, 1.4 is greater than 1.3. Second one down, 1.9 is greater than 1.5. Third question, 1.2 is less than 1.3. Now the question's on the right. 1.1 is less than 1.5. And the final two, we need to do a little bit of converting in our head because you've got a fraction that needs to be turned into a decimal. But 1.5 is greater than 1 4/10. And the final question, 1 3/10 is greater than 1 2/10.